Very good morning to our Shifus, brothers and sisters. I'm very glad to have the conditions to do this sharing with you over the cloud. As Shangren said, we are like using supernatural powers to connect with each other. Even though we are physically separated by the movement control order or regulation by the government to curb the coronavirus pandemic. Yes, the supernatural power or spiritual power or divine power, these are the few terms that we hear very frequently nowadays as Master is teaching the chapter of spiritual powers of ZingGuan. Okay, just a quick overview of this chapter. As Master has covered the whole chapter, technically speaking, now we're only left with the verses where the Buddha reiterate the teachings, right? So this chapter begins with the Bodhisattva vowing to preach the Lotus Sutra, and then the Buddha manifests spiritual power whereby his voice, finger snapping sound, and his appearance reach the Buddha lands of 10 directions. Following that, beings from all worlds pay homage to Sakyamuni Buddha because he expounded the very precious Lotus Sutra. And the chapter closes with the Buddha encouraging everyone to uphold and preach the Lotus Sutra. So why did the Buddha show such great power at this moment? Actually, it's not the first time the Buddha willed his supernatural power, but why is this chapter named after the Buddha's power? What is the message behind the text? These are some big questions which we can explore later, but my sharing today will be based on 2 points covered by Sharon over the past few days. The first one is about stupa, and the second one is about supernatural power or spiritual power. These 2 points are related to the passing down of the core values of the core value or the core spirit of Tzu Chi. Just a moment. Okay. So regarding stupa, let us first take a look at the excerpt from the sutra. Wherever the sutra rolls are preserved, whether in a garden, a forest, beneath a tree, in monks' quarters, in the lodgings of white-robed laymen, in palaces, or in mountain valleys or the wide wilderness, in all these places, one should build stupas and offer alms. So at the surface, some people will think that since the Lotus Sutra is held by the Buddha as full of merits, a person will be able to accumulate a lot of merits by building stupas to house the sutra. Very much like burning the big joss stick or burning the money during the 7th month in pursuit of blessings for health, for wealth, or to ward off the bad and evil things. But last week or the week before, I can't remember, we talked about merit, and we know that's not the way merit works. Thanks to Shangren's teaching of right view and right understanding, we know there is a deeper meaning. So on 24th May, Master taught us that these verses mean to convey the message that the sutra is something very precious. In sutra, there is the precious Dharma, and we should treasure the Dharma. Let the Dharma enter our heart, put the Dharma into action, and propagate the Dharma to educate people. How precious is the Dharma? The way I see it is that Tzu Chi Bodhisattva path, the Lotus Sutra, the Dharma, the teachings on life, the spirit of compassion and kindness is becoming even more invaluable in this modern world of increasing difficulties, as depicted in this picture. Currently, we have COVID-19, which is a big thing affecting the whole world. But we should not forget also the economic recession that follows and also the existing issue of climate change. Not forgetting also the impact caused by the tensions, the ongoing tensions between the world superpowers, and also the looming threat of food shortages caused by the plague of locusts. So the social fabric seems to be at the edge of being torn apart. Okay, such a difficult time. All these problems actually can Dharma and harmony can actually be maintained by the spirit of Bodhisattva. However, it is so convenient to access the Sutra and Dharma teachings nowadays, so much so that we may have taken it for granted and easily forget about the Dharma, just like water flowing through the pipe without being absorbed by the pipe. So Sharon constantly reminds us to be mindful, for the Dharma is progressive, as illustrated in this text. The Sutra symbolizing the Dharma could be found in such places as the garden, a forest, beneath a tree, in monks' quarters, in the lodgings of white-robed laymen, in palaces, or in mountain valleys or the wide wilderness. If we pay attention to the Dharma, we will find the Dharma everywhere. Everywhere can be a place of spiritual cultivation. Very well demonstrated by the Mozambique volunteers a few years back, like this. So the Mozambique volunteer held volunteer training under mango trees, and they sleep under the trees at night. Simple place, but they use the place with a sincere heart. And the spirit of Lotus Sutra, that of persevering on the Bodhisattva path, even though in difficult environment, is manifested here. So when we see this picture, we feel very touched. And in this clip, we can see the volunteers take off their shoes to do the walking meditation on the sand ground. So let me show you the clip. We can see really their sincerity and the way they treasure the place and the Dharma, right? Okay. Not only the Dharma can be found everywhere, we can also find it in every moment, every affairs, every problems. So with Dharma, we will also have a way to find the solution to our problems. Furthermore, the Sutra, the Dharma, can be found in every people, as Shangren has constantly taught us. Every people is a Sutra. During the online meeting between Shangren and Thailand volunteers yesterday, they share that in doing charity works, each case teach them about impermanence and sufferings, and they learn to give without asking for anything in return, thus gaining Dharma joys. And in this case, they saw how a granny have to walk using her hands. We are very sorry to see her condition, but we will learn to make good use of our body. Okay, and then the granny also show us the resilience of life. She's still trying very hard to live, right? Then, so that's a sutra manifested in a person. And what should we do wherever there is a sutra? We should treasure the sutra, so we should build a stupa. But in this case, a spiritual one in our heart, sincerely. We should treat everyone with respect and dignity. We treasure the Buddha nature within everyone and the karmic affinity we have with everyone we encounter. Interestingly, this is a very similar teaching in chapter 20 about the never slacking bodhisattva. About spiritual stupa, there is a familiar saying. We each have a voucher pick stupa. We can practice from the foot of that stupa. In Chinese, it is 人人有个领塔，好像领山塔下修. Yes, spiritual stupa is what we should work hard on. But how do we build this spiritual voucher pick stupa? What do we practice? For this, I think it is best to bring everyone back to the chapter that is best known for the stupa. which chapter? It's chapter 11 of the Lotus Sutra, the chapter of the emergence of the treasure stupa. So the treasure stupa could be a model stupa for us to build our own spiritual stupa. From Sharon's teaching, the treasure stupa has a 250 yojanas wide base. It symbolizes a very strong and stable foundation of cultivation formed by upholding the precepts, meaning not to engage in unwholesome actions, speech, and thoughts. This is the inner cultivation. Then there is the height of the stupa, measuring up to 500 yojanas. It is made of myriad virtues from myriad actions of 6 paramitas due to one sin. So this is the external cultivation. With both precepts and continuous kind acts, we shall be able to create extraordinary values in our life. It is Sharon's wish that we, the disciples, can live a very valuable life. This is also the essential message and spirit of the Lotus Sutra. Now, we move on to the spiritual power of the Buddhas, saviors of the world. Okay, here is the text. The Buddhas, saviors of the world, abide in their great spiritual powers, and in order to please sentient beings, they display immeasurable supernatural powers. So recently, since March or April this year, Cheng has been constantly talking about the spiritual power, particularly referring to Buddha's ability to extend his tongue to the heaven. And here, the sutra said that the Buddha do this in order to please sentient beings. This made me think of the time during early March, I think, where COVID-19 escalates into a global pandemic, and travel bans were put in place in many countries. And then we received requests or suggestions from overseas brothers and sisters to meet with Cheng online, so that Cheng can reduce our fear and worries about COVID-19. And then not long after that, Cheng began a series of online meetings with both overseas and local volunteers, the Taiwanese volunteers. Everyone is happy to see Cheng live online. And Cheng gave us the 4 principles to live by during the crisis, which is to pray with sincere piety, sow blessings by becoming a vegetarian or going vegan, harbor love and respect for one another, and tame our minds by overcoming afflictions and greeds. Cheng is often grateful for the technology that resembles the spiritual powers. But while I was preparing for today's sharing, it prompted me into thinking this question. Is it that the technology enables us to experience the spiritual powers like the far sight and far hearing ability? Or is it we who make this technology a spiritual power? Do you get the difference between the 2 questions? Right. Sounds like I'm thinking too much. You might say, is this even a valid question? Do we even want to spend time talking about this question? But actually, there is something I would like to point out. The technology is just a tool. How we use the technology is more important. Just like how Buddha values insight and spiritual cultivation more than supernatural powers. During Buddha's time, supernatural powers are not that difficult to develop, but enlightenment is rare. Back to our time now, the web conference technology is actually very common, but we don't think it is a spiritual power. But in the context of Tzu Chi, the way we use it is creating great values. It can extend the healing power of great love. Thus, we say this is a manifestation of spiritual power. It is actually our core values that truly give us the spiritual powers. Hence, a satellite is an ordinary satellite for daily usage, but when used with compassion and wisdom for disaster relief and prevention, it is like a far-sight power. Some more example to make my point. I would say this Myanmar sister exerts spiritual power as she carries 2 bags of rice. measuring up to 32 kilo, and she carries this 32 kilo once at a time for charity distribution. It's a feat. I wouldn't say it is a spiritual power if she's doing weightlifting training in a gym. Yeah. So even without the modern internet technology, Shangren has actually demonstrated many spiritual powers before. For instance, building Hualien City Hospital, that's a feat, almost like a miracle at that time. Spiritual powers at that time actually came from Master's vow for sentient beings. In addition to this, we have also witnessed how Tzu Chi was able to complete a whole housing area in just 88 days for the Baba Fengzai victims in 2009. For your information, Baba Fengzai was a typhoon on 8th of August in 2009, which has caused severe destruction in the southern part of Taiwan. And there's also the Typhoon Hualien in 2013, where it is not exaggerated to say that Tzu Chi has helped revive a city that was about to be abandoned by the government. And another thing is we are also often marveled by the Ta'ai fabric, which was made from plastic bottles. Not many people is doing this despite the fact that the technology exists, because the cost of collecting and cleaning the plastic bottle is quite high. But Tzu Chi was able to do this because many volunteers answered the call of Shangren to do recycling. So all these are possible due to the towering virtues of Shangren. You know, the concept of spiritual stupa we discussed earlier. So Shangren made good use of the technology and resources in the community to save the world. And this brings us to the power of connecting with people and bringing the community together to accomplish humanitarian works or some grand tasks. Shangren often use the dumpling bunch as an analogy. Such power of connecting with people is not to be taken for granted, as very few organizations can achieve this. To reiterate my point, our power comes from our core values, which is also the spirit of Lotus Sutra. And this is the essential thing that we must practice and pass down to our future generations. Even only with compassion and wisdom, without any supernatural ability on hands, we can still be saviors of the world, as Shangren has taught us. All Buddhas are compassionate. Those who care for and protect lives are saviors of the world. Just by going vegetarian and abstain from killing, we can actually save the world. Recently, Shangren praised a 7-year-old boy who shows extraordinary wisdom and compassion in being a vegetarian. He's only 7 years old and he's able to think and do what many adults are not able to do. So I believe many people have already watched this video, but I think it is good to watch this video again and recall how this boy actually used wisdom to persuade other people to function or stop killing.
王真炫今年7岁了，来自湖南长沙。
我吃素14年了。这不对上了吗？这不等一下慢慢的吃就可以好吃，好吃吧？哎呀，这个感觉真是太好了。那你原来吃肉啦？原来是
现在不吃肉了呀？
为什么要吃素的？
这是后面好赞，我好，
对，
海味都好。
对。
爸爸就是觉得。吃素会影响我的体育。
我查了百度的资料，我发现有很多运动员都是吃素的。我可以自己成绩好，然后自己把体育搞好，这样他们就不会不相信了，用事实证明吧。
我就想，我说你不要做了，肯定他们会不服。我想出来一个好办法， 然后我就跟他们说，你喜欢蚊子吗？然后他说不喜欢，蝌蚪可以变成青蛙呀，然后青蛙可以抓蚊子啊，然后他就把蝌蚪给放了。
看看他的吃素啦，很有一套他的很成熟的学问，比大人呐更成熟，条条道理从他口中说出来，很能说服人。他珍惜小动物，他爱惜生命，用这样的婉转的绕一圈呐，去说服这个同学，轻轻把它放生掉了，这就是智慧啦。
Alright, so he's only 7 years old, and he's able to think and do what many adults are not able to do. Isn't that something remarkable? Like he has the power of extending his wisdom life from past lives. Yeah. So it is very remarkable that at a mere 7 years old, he to find information, he go and do the Baidu or what we know Google, right? We usually do the Googling, but at 7 years old, I think this is really very remarkable. And then he's also able to persuade other people to abstain from killing using a very using a very skillful way. So he's able to relate to other people feeling as well. So I think this is like the superpower to know, to read others' mind. So very touching. Very touched to see this boy. Yeah. All right. Then to conclude my sharing for today, the essence of Lotus Sutra and city spirit could be found everywhere if we are mindful. And we should work hard on building our spiritual stupa to create meaningful values in our lives. With the core values of Bodhisattva path, we can achieve the spiritual powers for the benefits of all sentient beings. Cheng actually put it very simply with this aphorism: do not underestimate your ability. Everyone has unlimited potential. Thank you and wish you an awesome weekend ahead. All right. So Brother Joe is here. Yes.
Okay, thanks to Brother ZingGuan for the wonderful sharing. Indeed, just like what Brother ZingGuan shared about a little boy, I think whether it's talking about technology, or whether it's talking about do not underestimate yourself, I think it's all talking about the idea of the non-hindrance. Master talked about the non-hindrance today. 四无碍. The non-hindrance is the okay. So Master talks about the non-hindrance, the ability to understand the Dharma and being able to speak freely, and being able to have the joy to speak and cross different languages. And I think this was evident. This was evident in the story that Brother ZingGuan just mentioned about the 7-year-old boy, knowing that, and this is the key. Okay, the idea and the Dharma flows freely from his mind. He has only one goal. The one goal was to save the tadpole, right? And that was only one goal. And because of that one goal, everything comes freely flowing from inside his mind. Just like what Master talked about today at the end. When Master talks about the wind and the air comes and goes without any obstacles. Just like preaching the Dharma, right? But I think the more important thing is, well, how do we do that? We're not like him, right? where, you know, somebody says, you know, if my dad says he's going to eat the meat, I'm not going to be able to come up with a story that goes around and say, do you like something? Well, if you don't like it, well, don't eat this so that you won't like that, right? So I don't think I have the wisdom, right? So does that mean that our winds are blocked? Does that mean that we don't have the air that's flowing? In fact, we do, right? Even the boys share with us that when the dad questioned him about the physical parts, the nutritionist values of the vegetarian, what did he do, right? He went to Baidu, he went to Google. And so this is what is telling us that, you know, first of all, we all have that inherent wisdom to be able to flow freely. The love and the wisdom can come out. But when it doesn't come out, what do, right? You can open all the windows when it's really hot. But when you don't have the wind coming in and you're really, really hot and sweating like crazy, what do? You generate that wind by placing a fan. And that's akin to going online to find the information, to learn from the master, to learn from the actual realities. And that's when the boy said, right, in the video, the boy said that I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna get good grades, and I'm going to and show that I am healthy and I'm gonna get good grades. So I think that for him, there is no blockage, right? There is no blockage between what he believes is the goal, which is achieving his own vegetarian diet, and right now, which is the obstacles that people are blocking. For him, there is no obstacle. But is there obstacle? There's absolutely obstacle, right? The friends are killing, and well, the killing is a harsh word. The friends are playing with other animals, and the parents aren't willing to let them eat. These are obstacles. But for him, is there any? There is none. And so for him, the wind just blows just like space, and it goes through. So that's what non-hindrance means. And that's where I think Brother ZingGuan concluded with this. This is Master's way of telling us, you could also become that wind in the space. If you don't underestimate yourself, you have this unlimited potential to reach your goal. And the goal with all the people that's helping you. And I think that ZingGuan mentioned using Master's teachings along the way and sharing to this final point, where, you know, everybody could be the Buddha. We all have the inherent Buddha nature. And as you do them, it's just like the boy said, as you do them, that you're going to build up this virtue, right? Like a stupa, right? Like a stupa. And that virtue will actually carry you more and be more and get you more, you know, the friends and of benevolence to help you walk on this path. So that what other people seem to be hindrance will actually not be hindrance at all. And if you think about Buddha's Dharma teaching, do you really think that Buddha has no hindrance? Right? Exactly. Right? But in his eyes, there's no hindrance in speaking what he wants and getting to what he wants, which is to achieve everybody's enlightenment. There's no hindrance in the mind, and therefore he was able to reach there and get there because he knew how to get there. He knew how to get around it. So same thing for the boy. Are you saying that there's no obstacle? There are absolutely obstacles, but because he knew how to get there, so there are no obstacles. So it's very similar to the still thought, the Jing Si that says, as long as you know the way, it is not too far. It is never too far because you know the way. So it's not to say that it's going to take a long, long time. It's to say that I know how to get there now. Therefore, it's not an obstacle. I know how to get around it, so it's not an obstacle. I know I have the vow and the will to do this. Therefore, it's not an obstacle. I will eventually outlive this problem, and I will be able to get through. And that's our unlimited potential. So thanks very much to Brother ZingGuan, who bravely volunteered to share and using this way. Okay, so it's very, very different from how I share with all the words, right? And I was really really enjoying all the sounds and the pictures, not just words. This is all I do, just words, right? So very much thankful to Brother ZingGuan, and I'm hoping very soon we'll do this again, very soon. And so that's the sharing for today. Okay, so now we're gonna shift over to the sharing by the centers, and once again, thanks to Brother ZingGuan, and let us continue on as if there's no hindrance. And whether there's obstacles or not, remember, in our mind, right? In our mind, as long as we have a way to beat it, then it's not difficult. As long as we are on the way to achieving that, then that's exactly what we're trying to do. That's exactly how non-obstacle and non-hindrance means. So thanks everybody, and thanks to Brother ZingGuan. We have all benefited much great from this. Thank you.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Utmost gratitude to Brother ZingGuan and Brother Joe for such elegance in Dharma sharing, truly the unhindered, because of possession of this great wisdom. Good morning, we have today Brother KaiHwa, who will be sharing with us the journey during MCO. Brother KaiHwa, and earlier we have heard from her home sister, Sister Supang. Today, we hear from Brother KaiHwa. Over to you, Brother KaiHwa.
Good morning, brothers and sisters around the world, and to the Hualien Dharma team. Let me share my screen. Okay, I'd like to talk about. I'm KaiHwa from this Puchong, Selangor, and the Malaysia. So I'd like to talk about a little bit on my journey during this Malaysia MCO. I believe MCO to Malaysian back home here is nothing strange. Everybody has to really get used to their life during this MCO. But I'll just talk about my journey during this difficult time, so-called. Let's begin. Then I'd like to bring up to everybody what is MCO. MCO is just another words for lockdown in most of the countries. But in Malaysia, Prime Minister like to name it MCO, Movement Control Order, started on the 18th of March, actually to combat this pandemic in the country. Then we've been told that it started on the 18th of March. It's actually for 2 weeks. Well, most of us plan for 2 weeks. Even our groceries or food, whatsoever things we in the office world, we plan it for 2 weeks. But if you look at the time frame, it has been extended the 4th time. And then now we are in phase 5. Wow. And then during the last phase, the Prime Minister just give it all, just extend 4 weeks instead of every time 2 weeks. There will be then, of course, some relaxations also come to the picture. So they introduced this called CMCO. Wow, what is CMCO? And they call it Conditional Movement Control Order. Started on the 4th of May. It's actually relaxation of certain movement of us and businesses. Then at least we got some movement, yeah, not only staying at home. Then what happened actually? Then every day, without fail, local and international mainstream news, we get bombarded, I would say bombarded with all this news. The world chart we see today is preferred to be used in red color. And then most of the country top the chart for the wrong reason. Today it's the US, then suddenly came Brazil, this and that. And while in those countries where the viruses has come down a little bit, then comes another warning. It's like what happened is South Korean. So too much of negativity around the world, back home also. Suddenly our DG, Director General of Health Ministry, also bring up a news. We found a new cluster here and there. Like yesterday, we just found another cluster of a cleaning company. So much so that we thought it's subsiding, but actually it's not. So actually all this negativity is we prefer to see the world in red color nowadays. I don't know why. Let me show the next slide. This is the slide that I would like to talk about. Before 17th of March, before 18th of March, I won't know all this, or not bothering so much. I'm very sincere. But after 18th of March, he has become my friends. This has become my tools, so called. So I've been introduced with the word WFH, which is widely used now, work from home. I still remember on the 17th or 16th of March, I'm still back in office. The bosses have a meeting, tell all the staff, employee, take your laptop home. They will open up the VPN. Directly, you can link to the server in the office, work from home. Don't ever think of coming back. Wow, that's a very strong word. Then everybody been telling me, you're going out. You have a chance of go out, please, your face mask and sanitizer. Then this word's called social distancing. Remember when I was in the line, then this lady came over pretty near. I have the guts to tell her off, hey, please stay away a little bit. You must be 1 meter from me. This is like norm in the society nowadays. And then the best part is that if you see the news, our new finance minister also bring out a news. He will say this way, your new normal maybe going to be a permanent normal. So get used to it. I would say my life has a little bit changed from before 18th of March, pre-18th of March, and post-18th of March. So it has some bearing on that. Then, of course, a lot of all this negativity and new things, my little devils inside me came out first. Is it the world now is in the mess? Everything is in the mess. What's happening? Who make this happen to me? Who created all this mess? I'm not at fault. I'm not doing anything. I've done nothing wrong. I'm just stay put in my little cubicle. I didn't do anything. Why have to adhere to all these things? So another feeling is the anxiety, the worry, so many feelings mixed up together. And then I still remember a friend of mine in an architect firm. He's owned an architect firm. During the first phase of the MCO, he straight away called me. He's so anxious, so fierce, and the anxiety kicks in. He just tells me, what shall I do now? Shall I fire all my staff? Shall I ask my staff to go on leave, cut their salaries? And then lately, I think after the Hari Raya, the Malay festival, more things happen. Big organization also offering VSS, Voluntary Separation Scheme, MSS, Mutual Voluntary Separation Scheme. Every now and then, it has become so norm. People are so worried how to carry on with their lives, even in businesses, even in employment, and then it affects the whole world. Nobody actually able to escape this. So you begin to wonder, is it the world now has become such a mess? For me, that my little devils in me tell me, yes, that's the feeling. So, but we are in Tzu Chi also, we are very grateful, really grateful that there are a lot of activities being carried out. So one of the activities is CBI, where Tzu Chi actually works together with United Nations, UNHCR, to actually distribute some funds to all these qualified refugees in Malaysia, which hold the UNHCR card. Then we are responsible to do the assessment and the distribution of this fund to various places in Malaysia. I'm grateful to be participated in this program and also in some of our own church charity missions to do the same sort of distribution of groceries some of them with cash. Then you can see some of this. This is a time where my little angel in me, with his little wisdom, came about to fight against the little devils in me. The little devil in me, to subside it, to bring it down. So this little angel came about. And then together with Tzu Chi activities, with the mind and physical, blend it together. And then we go and do all this distribution. And then I would say during all these activities, humility comes in, humbleness comes in. It teach me a lot of insight. Actually, later I want to share the other screen. Then what happens is that we have to go to some of the remote places. Some of them you have to look at the photos. Some of the houses are really depleted, in bad shapes. Some of them even can't even have proper meal. So we go in, frankly, sincerely, at first you will find it quite awkward with all the pandemic or the virus going around the world. In the society, I still go out and meet people and do the distribution. But adhere to all the tight SOP, put up your gears properly, and with the pure, sincere heart and mind, we goes in and experience it, the suffering, the toughness of life in our own surrounding, not talking it too far away. All these photos is taken nearby my areas. It's just surround us, but we tend to ignore to look at it. But with Tzu Chi activities, all this, we actually experience it, embrace them, and then feel it. And then this is another case that are under Tzu Chi charity mission, whereby we distribute some. I'd like to talk a little bit about this family. They are staying in this near to a construction site, and then she was called in to Tzu Chi, and then she's qualified for this this fund distribution. We went to her house and then we gave her the envelope. She was shocked that we distributed at the 23rd of March during the Hari Raya Eve. She was so shocked that at this point of time, there are still people who are willing to give in money without any return. That's why you look at the photo, she took the envelope and held to her heart. So strong, and then she cried, burst out. The tears just burst out without control. And then we are also shocked. Suddenly she just burst out like that. And then at the end, when we are about to go back, we're way back, she gave us the most sincere smile that a human being can portray. This is something that my little angel told me, that all our efforts is really sincerely worth it. So this lady is so happy until the whole family almost cried. We, our volunteers, also cried. So this MCO, CMCO or pandemic created a lot of, I would say, livelihood threat to most of the people. Then we also distribute to some, this man also, the wife is back in Indonesia. She's staying alone with another friend here. They got nothing to eat. He go to the nearby pond because he stays in more remote areas. He go by the nearby pond and go fishing. And then got one day he's been warned by the police not go to fishing because he's still under the MCO. So they are supposed to stay in the house. Then during this period of time, with all this positive energy and participate, I really truly able to experience it. How blessed are we? I just feel Tzu Chi volunteers, when we join Tzu Chi at the time before we are volunteers, we often hear the volunteers always saying about Ganon, Ganon. But during this period of time, it's really give me more understanding about the words Ganon. When every time I do distribution and went back home, of course I take my shower first, and then I look at my family, my son or daughter, because we take routine and cook. They will prepare simple vegetarian meal at home. During this moment and having this meal with my family is the most Ganon and blessing, the sweet thing that happened. You need not to ask more by having a simple meal with your family and then see they are healthy, they are intact, they are cheerful, and then the whole family stays together. Having a simple meal is blessing enough for me. So during this MCO, I also learned the word Ganon and said it properly with my heart. Then, so for me that we are, of course, having a vegetarian meal at home every day. Then we have routine cooking. Today is my son, the next day is my daughter, my home sister and myself. We take turns because we still have to go back, work from home. Sometimes we have to go back to office, so we take turns. A very simple meal. It's nothing fancy, nothing need to put up a lot of thinking. We just go for a simple mind, vegetarian meal, everybody enjoy it. But one of the condition we always have it is that we try very best to stay together and eat together. This is the time we chit chat and then we share with our family, our children, during the distribution what had happened. Let them feel it. I would say Tzu Chi actually bring us together in the family very, very much. Then during this MCO also, by participating in all these activities, I also saw this thing in the YouTube which I like to share. This is not from me, I just got it from the YouTube and then I like to share with everybody. A little boy that went home suddenly saw her mother doing embroidery. Then the mother told her, I'm doing a very nice embroidery for you. But the children, because he's small, he is able to see from the wrong side of the embroidery, which is from the bottom. He asked the mom, oh, what I can see is all the thread tangled up, messed up, all are complications. Where do you see the beauty? I don't see it. The mother wondered what the son is trying to say. Of course, because the son sees from the bottom, from the wrong side of the embroidery. The mom bring her up from the top, is told him that, son, you see, it's actually a very beautiful design. It's a pattern, and it is a plan. It's not tangled up, it's also beautiful. So what I learned from this short message is that one should change their vision. See a situation from a different point of view so that you might find the beauty of it, rather than always look at from the wrong side and keep on complaining, which is most of us has been doing most of the time. So this is during this MCO, I have this thinking, and then it's actually a very positive notes that I gather. Of course, with my little help of my little angel with his shallow wisdom, so I'm seeing the embroidery from the right side of it. Then, of course, it came about another one is called self-realization. So we are so engrossed in our daily life, we always tends to enhance and improvise our standard of living. And then we always say our standard in living actually is our happiness by having bigger house, bigger car, more luxuries, I would say. Maybe not in most of our charity volunteers, but public at large. We tend to measure our standard of happiness to the standard of living. The higher the standard of living, the more happiness we get. But actually we forgot, we need to increase the standard of our life instead. Standard of life here means that the inner you, the quantitative measures rather than the quantitative. So we often forget about it, and then we don't put attention to it. So I during this, sincerely during this self-realization, it happened more prominently during this MCO and participate with all these Tzu Chi activities and all this our distribution. It getting more prominent. You tend to feel it more strongly. So this is what I felt during this MCO. Then during my during our distribution team last 2 weeks, this photo is snapped by one of our brothers. He taken it from afar and then he put up his quotes in our WhatsApp group, which is I just want to share with everybody. So he sees us doing distribution from afar, and he just snapped it. This is from a very remote area nearby our community, a very remote area. This is refugees from the Cheng group, Myanmar. He has not been having proper meal and no money at all. So what he did is that when we reached there, he's out from the house. The wife called him back. He's actually go to the stream and fish to try to catch some fish for the family. So this is what the brother been saying. You deliver love under the tree. Social distancing, but the heart actually stays together. It actually melts me during this photo we take. It melt our heart, and it's good to have all these activities positive. And then I will try to say to bring out the little angel of you to carry on with this MCO. So because now the CMCO actually supposed to end on the 9th of June. So you will see what's going to happen. So that's my sharing for the day. So I hope that I give an insight to all our brothers and sisters and the Dharma team. Thank you. Kanlan. Right back to you, Sister Tzu Chi.
Brother KaiHwa, we pass back to our Hualien teachers. Wonderful sharing.
Okay, thanks, Brother KaiHwa, for your wonderful sharing. Indeed, the moment you began sharing about the MCO and the CMCO, these are very new terms for us here in Taiwan, because we are very fortunate that we didn't have these movement restrictions. We do have restrictions in public gatherings and also indoor gatherings, but we are free to move about. And I understand and I see that I think Malaysia is going to come out of the MCO for various reasons, and also for various assessments that it was okay to be free of the MCO. But and then I see what we have done through the volunteers and you guys have done in CBI. I think that's one of the activities dealing with the refugees, as well as the distributions, and also what the very lovely pictures that you showed us with the food, which really brought me, you know, to feel a bit of hungry, seeing the bowl of rice and also the pot of reddish stuff that seems to be very yummy. You know, it's these little things that I pay attention to, and we were having a discussion here that most of our food here is more toward on the green side, and most of the food that I see in the pictures are more yellow and red. And I see some string beans there. There were some string beans there. So making sure that you guys take enough vegetables, I think that's very important. Okay, so what am I trying to want to say? So I'm seeing the MCO and I'm seeing the CMCO, and that just ties in with what we're saying, right? That even though there are restrictions on your movement, yet your movements are indeed non-restricted at all, right? There's no obstacle that stops you from making these face shields. There's no obstacle to stop you from helping in your CBI or distribution or helping others. There's no obstacle. There is no obstacle in you helping the environment by observing the vegetarian diet. There's no obstacle in you sharing, even though right now there are conditioned MCO in Malaysia. So there's no obstacle at all. Yet to many people, there are so many obstacles. Why? Because to them, they see the obstacles as ways that they cannot do certain things. But as you mentioned, the finance minister said that this will be the new norm, the permanent norm. Imagine if this were the permanent norm, say starting from 2020, this year, then for any children that were born afterwards, or maybe 10 years later, for them, that would be their norm. They would not know what happened before the norm, right? They would not know what was before this norm. So for them, they would be able to find ways to live, and they would be able to find ways to think that I am not under any restriction. I am free to go around as long as I'm underneath this set of rules and laws. And I think this is what the Buddha is trying to tell us, that we have a higher goal, right? Our goal is to help others. And in between your right now present location and your destination, which is to help others, there are going to be things in the middle, like you cannot move around, like you cannot buy the things, or you couldn't find the resources to buy because people are buying things and hoarding things up. So there are going to be issues along the way, and that's going to make things difficult. But it should be no hindrance. And without hindrance and superpowers is one of the same thing. What Brother ZingGuan mentioned today was the superpowers, and that's what Master said, that through where we are, which is with all the restrictions, and what we have done seemingly without any restrictions, it's the superpowers that were able to get us there, right? But in reality, we all have that. We all have that power, right? You did this. They all did this in all different countries. They all did it, right? In the Philippines, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in the Africas, they all did it. In the US, they all did this, right? That proved that they had these powers beyond what we think we know, what we think that we have, okay? So just like the Buddha, who was enlightened under the Bodhi tree, he realized that we have so much more than what we see we have. So it is very important that Master was telling us that even in the sutra, it was talking about the tongue, right, and the light, right? It's not just talking about the sound and the sight. It's really talking about the 6 roots all together. And when you overcome what you see and you feel as the obstacle, then you move on to the 7th and the 8th and the 9th. Then you are able to cultivate on the 9th, so that you are able to cultivate that Buddha, the Buddha consciousness. So thanks very much, brother, for your sharing and the wonderful. It's always nice to see the families at this time holding together. I think once again, we are the fortunate ones. Brother, we're able to work from home, and there were many others who didn't have the choice, and therefore the people that can help are going out of their way without hindrance to help others. And that's what we need to do, and that's what we need to have more people do. So instead of people always complaining about how they're restricted, how they couldn't go to the beach, we should do more to get people to understand that they have so much already and they can do more to help others. And that is Bodhisattva path, right? You yourself is working on that. You yourself are working on that. Now, how do we get more people to also see that and work on this, and get more people to see this and work on this? And that's the perpetuation of our Dharma lineage. So thanks very much for brother sharing, and thanks all for your participation today. Today, Master left about our masters left about 10 minutes ago to participate in the separate events, so that's why they're not here. But once again, we thank our masters of the abode to also be with us here as we cultivate together on this path of Bodhisattva. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Brother Joe, Brother ZingGuan, and Brother KaiHwa for lots of unhindered wisdom sharing. Today, indeed, we heard so much since Xin Fa Xiang from masters, sermons, the tips of having this unhindered Bodhisattva path. Wishing everyone all the Bodhisattva here with supernatural power that enable us to walk on this path unhindered and stay steadfast. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your presence. Hope that each of us has sustained so much of this Dharma joy and taken another piece of our Master and Hualien love to our life. Let us please make 3 bows to the Buddha and Dharma Master as we depart to apply these teachings in our daily life. Let us pay our respects to our teachers of life universal truth. Palms together, first bow. Second bow. Third bow. And we are very grateful to our masters who could grace this event this morning. Cảm ơn to masters about to our Sifu. Cảm ơn. Okay, cảm ơn all the Bodhisattvas.